Storytime about how I got my ex-boyfriend back for cheating on me. So a lot of background information. My ex and I were together for almost 2 years, and throughout our whole entire relationship, he had been cheating on me. I'm not surprised though. But what I am surprised about is that he was cheating on me with my best friend. Well, my ex-best friend now. Before my ex and I got together, my best friend had a crush on him for like a week, right? And then she got a boyfriend. And I had asked her, is it okay if I get with him? Like, him and I have been talking, he said that he really likes me. And she said, yeah, of course, that's perfectly fine. I don't care. I don't like him anymore. So I was like, okay, we're all good to go. So a month later, him and I start dating. Well, I found out that he was cheating on me when I went through his phone and saw all these nude pictures of my best friends and videos of them doing the nasty. So I decided I had to get him back. And my best friend, of course. My best friend was still with her boyfriend, but her boyfriend was my ex-boyfriend's best friend. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I got my ex-boyfriend back for cheating on me. So I'm just gonna throw this in here real quick. I'm pretty sure the only reason why my best friend did all that stuff with my ex was because she was pissed off at me for actually dating him. Because from what I had heard through other people who knew that she was doing that with my boyfriend, they said that she didn't talk to him or anything anymore. And that she really actually loved her boyfriend that she was with. Little TMI. Throughout my boyfriend and I's whole relationship, he would beg me to be open-minded while being intimate. And he would want to do things that I really just did not want to do. And there was a long list of things that he wanted me to do. So a week later, I told her boyfriend, but I told her boyfriend not to tell her because of my plan. And that whole week, my boyfriend was apologizing to me, saying he was so sorry and that he wants me back, blah, 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 blah. And my best friend thought that her boyfriend was loyal as fuck. Not anymore. So I told him about my plan, which was to do everything that my boyfriend begged me to do during our whole relationship with him. And for him, it would just be enough to send it to her because she thought he was loyal. Like for part 3. Part 3 about how I got my ex-boyfriend back for cheating on me. So like I said, I told her boyfriend my plan and everything like that, and he was on board right away. So he came over to my house, we did all that good shit. Oh, and I forgot to tell you guys. My ex-best friend had begged me not to tell her boyfriend. She was like, you don't get it, like I really love him, like I really don't want to lose him. And I told her that I wouldn't tell him. But I don't really know what her boyfriend did. All I know is that I sent the video to my boyfriend. Oh, and also my boyfriend begged me not to tell her boyfriend because they were best friends. But I did it anyways, and like I said, I sent it to him, and I sent him a long paragraph, and then he sent me, oh, how could you do this to me, blah, 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 you just ruined everything for me, things will never be the same between us, and I was like, yeah, okay, good, I don't care, you were a piece of garbage anyways. But however, my ex-best friend, she took her boyfriend back, and now their relationship is toxic as fuck, and he cheats on her all the time. And they've been together now for like 3 years. Karma is a bitch. Storytime about how my husband accidentally told me that he was cheating on me. So just some background information. My husband and I got engaged 2 years ago. And this whole situation happened a month after we got married. So fast forward, it's a Sunday morning. Well, usually every week on Sunday, I clean the whole house. So I woke up, went into the bathroom to take my ring off, and I could not get it off. Mind you, I had gained a little bit of weight since my husband and I got engaged. Anyways, I tried butter, I tried soap, I tried everything, even oil. So after trying to get it off for an hour straight, my finger was 3 times bigger than it usually is. So at this point, I'm really scared that I'm going to have to get it cut off. Because 1, I didn't want to ruin it, and 2, it was really expensive. So I call my husband and he's like, oh, call your dad. Firefighters always know what to do. So I called my dad and thank God he lived 5 minutes away because he drove over really quickly. Like for part 2. Part 2 of how my husband accidentally told me that he was cheating on me. So like I said, my dad lived 5 minutes away, so he just rushed over to my house. And we tried a few more things to get it off. We tried Windex, we tried the dental floss, none of it was working. So my dad told me that we were gonna have to cut it off with pliers. So he comes over with the pliers, cuts the ring off. Well, a few days later, I had taken it to the same place that we got it to get the band fixed. Or replaced. While I was there, I decided to get it appraised, just for insurance reasons. So a few days later, I go and pick up my ring, and when I get home, I look at the appraisal. It was not the same one that I had picked out in the store. It looked exactly like it, but there was like a $20,000 price difference. So right now, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not mad about the money part. I'm more mad that my husband lied to me. I was more upset about the fact that he had lied to me. So I had made dinner reservations for the next night, so that way I could hopefully bring up the conversation about it, like for part 3. Part 3 of how my husband accidentally told me that he was cheating on me. So like I said, I had made reservations for him and I to go out to dinner so that way I could hopefully spark up the conversation about it. So when we finally sat down, I had started up the conversation. I had told him that when I took my ring in to get it fixed, I also got it appraised. And his face immediately changed after that, but he wasn't saying anything. He was like, oh, okay, how did that go? So at this point, I was tired of beating around the bush, and I was like, why wouldn't you just tell me if we were having money troubles? And he was like, what do you mean? We're not having any money troubles. I'm fine. One thing about my husband is that he is very wealthy, and he takes pride in the fact that he is very wealthy. So obviously, me right there kind of questioning his wealth, he fucked up and told me the truth. He was like, well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I accidentally gave the ring that I was supposed to give you to a girl I was seeing at the time, and I just never got around to replacing yours. So fast forward to present day, I am currently moving all of my stuff out of our house and filing for divorce.
Hi, I'm Giselle, and I live with my parents in France. Please like and subscribe. My dad named me Giselle, which means beautiful like a star. He never loved anyone in the world as much as he loved me. And I guess this is why my own mom never liked me very much. Once in 2nd grade, my geography teacher, Miss Diana, started screaming at a poor girl, and I just hated that she was such a bully. When she was done, she turned to us and said, "Okay, class, so now I think I should jump off a bridge?" And the whole class laughed. "Giselle, what is this behavior? I'll send you to the principal."
"And I'll send you to Antarctica. My dad is a travel agent."
"How dare you threaten me? You should never threaten people like that."
"Sorry, Diana. I thought it was funny."
"You should never call your teachers by their first name. This isn't funny."
And the complaint letter was sent to my parents. Mom was furious, but Dad couldn't stop laughing at the statements I'd made in class.
"Giselle, I know you were defending a girl, but we should always respect our teachers, darling."
"You shout at me if I spill coffee by mistake,
"But anything Giselle does is fine by you. You'd forgive her if she ever killed someone." "Oh, God, honey, do you always have to be so melodramatic? How can you compare yourself to a kid? And she's really funny."
Mom just stormed off angrily, and since that day, I started noticing that she'd always talk to me rudely. A few weeks later, it was Dad's birthday, and I went down that evening in a beautiful new dress. The minute Dad got home, I ran towards him. Dad, my new dress. Am I pretty?" And then Mom pushed me aside and showed Dad the watch she'd bought for him. But Dad ignored her completely and picked me up instead.
"My princess, no one can look more beautiful than you. Look what I've brought for you."
"Chocolate? Barbies? Wow! Mom, see the gifts Dad got for me?"
But Mom angrily turned away and left. Why was she always like this? I forgot all about her as soon as Dad and I started to play, and we played a lot. The next day at breakfast, Mom came downstairs wearing a bikini, and she walked in front of Dad. "How do I look, darling? Come, let's dance in this romantic weather." Dad spat out his coffee and burst out laughing. "That was a really good joke, but can you please go and put something on? It's freezing and you'll get sick and cause trouble for everyone." He just went back to reading his newspaper, and I saw Mom's face turn red. I felt a bit sorry for her, but why was she acting so silly? She was obviously furious at Dad, but she took it out on me by not giving me dessert that day. And this time, I was angry at her.
"Give me dessert, now!"
"Nope, don't feel like it. Go ask your dad." I went to the kitchen and climbed onto a stool to reach the cookie jar on the top of the fridge, but I accidentally knocked it down and broke it with a loud crash. Mom came rushing in and started shouting at me. "You're such a brat. Look at this mess you made. You're going to clean it up." But I just ran out of there and headed straight to the phone.
"Hello, Dad? Mom is saying that she hates me, and I look like an ugly panda."
Dad called Mom back and yelled at her, and I did a happy dance. Years passed, and I grew up to be a beautiful girl. Every time Dad or anyone praised my beauty, Mom looked jealous. By now, it was clear. She completely resented me. By the time I reached 11th grade, I'd discovered my love for acting, and I'd taken part in all of the school plays. But there was a mean girl in my class who was always competing with me for the lead roles, Ashley. I'd usually beat her to them, and she wasn't very fond of me. One day in the cafeteria, I saw Ashley bullying this shy kid named Sam. She walked up to him with her boyfriend and took off his thick glasses, snapping them in half.
"Oh, look at him crying like a kid. Mommy, save me from Ashley."
Sam's eyesight was so weak that he couldn't see anything. As he tried to get away, Ashley stuck out her leg and he tripped. He would have landed on his face, but I caught him just in time. Then I picked up a chair and shouted at Ashley, "You!
touch him again and I'll hit your head so hard your tiny little brain will come out. How dare you threaten me, witch? And suddenly she jumped on me and we broke out into a huge fight. Some teachers came running and pulled us apart, and their moms were called to the school immediately. These girls were fighting like wild dogs. It's unacceptable behavior. My daughter could never do this. She's the greatest child in the world. Oh yes, I'm sure it was Giselle's fault. She's the worst child in the world. You poor baby, how badly hurt is she? Giselle should definitely be punished. This is the last warning to you girls. Don't be weak. Why are you letting Giselle off with a warning? You should suspend her. You can even throw her out of school. Mom! The principal actually suspended me for 3 days, and I was furious. When we got home, Dad was already there, and she started complaining to him immediately. See what your amazing daughter has done. She's suspended from school because she beat a girl so badly for no reason. She nearly sent her into a coma. Shut up. Don't talk rubbish. Giselle isn't crazy enough to hurt someone like that. Yes, Dad. Mom is lying. And she told the principal to suspend me. Ashley jumped on me and I just pulled her hair. How could she go into a coma from that? Hearing this, Dad was furious at Mom and they broke into the worst fight of their lives. Mom smashed half the plates in her house. She was crazy. A few days later, something was published in the news that left everyone really surprised in school. It was a picture of Sam with his dad, who happened to be a world-famous movie director. Everyone knew Sam's dad, but until now, no one had known Sam was his son because he'd never mentioned it. And suddenly, everyone's attitude towards Sam changed completely. He was surrounded by girls all the time. I also liked him, but I'd just see him from a distance. Even Ashley the witch apologized to him one day. He forgave her, and after that, the two would be hanging out together so often. A week later, it was Valentine's Day, and I came to know that Ashley had dumped her boyfriend. She walked over to Sam in the cafeteria and said, "This rose is for the most handsome boy in the world. Will you be my Valentine?" No boy ever refused Ashley because she was so pretty. But to my shock, Sam just took the rose from her and walked over to me. I've been waiting to do this since the first time we've met. And what day is better than Valentine's? You're the prettiest, loveliest girl ever. Will you go out with me, Giselle? Yes, of course, yes. Then he lifted me into his arms and twirled me around as everyone cheered for us. Ashley was so embarrassed and angry, she ran away from there crying. I started enjoying my relationship with Sam. He'd pick me up from my place, and then we'd go to parks and malls. I could see Mom's jealous face whenever I'd come back with gifts. One day she said, "Is this what you go to school for? Focus on your studies. Don't I already get the highest grades? That boy Sam isn't good for you." How can you say that? You don't even know him. His dad and I were in the same college, and he is a horrible, dishonest man. Wow, you'll just make up anything, won't you? You know what? I think you're just jealous, because you never got what I have. I started ignoring Mom completely after that. She couldn't stand to see me happy, and that was her problem, not mine. I graduated from high school, and Sam and I decided to get engaged before we both headed off for college. We had a small engagement dinner with his parents and mine, but just as he was about to put the ring on my finger, Mom suddenly jumped up from her seat. No, I can't stay quiet and just watch, Giselle. I have proof that this boy is no good. Look at this picture of him kissing this girl. Won't you believe me now? I warned you about him and his whole family. Mom, just stop. That girl is Sam's cousin, and I know her. You've proved nothing, except that you're a crazy psycho who's been stalking my boyfriend. Everyone was staring at us, and the whole evening was ruined. When we got home, I turned to Dad. "She ruined one of the happiest days of my life, Dad. Thank God I'm leaving for university tomorrow." "Not just you, darling. I'm leaving too. I've stayed with this mad woman just for you, but now you're all grown up and ready to go, and so am I. I need some peace in my life." And with that, we both left home the next day, hoping to never see Mom again. A few months later, Dad told me he was getting married again, and I was really happy for him. After Sam and I graduated from university, we decided to get married. I didn't want Mom to ruin my big day, so I didn't invite her. But to my shock, Dad didn't come either. He just sent me a huge wedding present with a note, "Sorry I couldn't make it, honey, but I can't leave my wife and newborn son alone right now. Love you and hope you have an amazing day." That was a big blow to my heart. He'd never ignored me before, and I was so angry at him. I called him, but he didn't even pick up. Sam's dad soon signed me on for a movie, and the very first one was a success. I shot to fame fast and was soon traveling all over the world for shootings and premieres. I was away often, and over time, I felt Sam was growing really distant from me. Like once I was in town on my birthday, and all he did was laze around on the couch as usual and watch football all day. Sam, today's day is over. It was my birthday, and you didn't even wish me a happy birthday.
Oh, I forgot. Happy birthday, dear.
And then he just turned his face to the TV again. This kind of stuff happened all the time, and I felt invisible. And sometimes it made me think of how Dad must have made Mom feel, and how I'd never realized it before. To distract myself, I worked even harder, and within a year, I was nominated for a big award. But Sam didn't even show up to the award ceremony. And when I got home, I found him having a huge party at our place.
Oh, I thought you were out of town, babe. Come, meet my friends.
Out of town? I was at the award ceremony, and you weren't there.
That was today. And why did I need to be there, Giselle? Did you need me to carry around that tiny award for you?
Do you even care about me? Or am I just a money-earning machine for you? You don't even have a job, and all you do is spend my hard-earned money.
Your hard-earned money? Anything you are today is because of my dad and my connections. And look at you now, acting all high and mighty with your award and your expensive dress, which, by the way, looks awful on you.
Everyone in the room looked at us. I was embarrassed like never before. Suddenly, the scene of Dad laughing at Mom and insulting her flashed before my eyes, and it was the worst feeling in the world. Really? You made me? Then why couldn't you make something of yourself, you useless potato? Saying that, I just pushed him aside and stormed off to my room. I could hardly sleep that night. I was so angry at Sam and at Dad. The next morning, I woke up to a message on my phone. It was from my bank, saying that all the money from my account had been withdrawn. What the heck? Sam, you took all my money? Why did you even need such a big amount?
I had some debts to pay off. Partying can be expensive, man. You'd know if you ever had fun.
What? You're the biggest jerk ever! I wish I'd let Ashley have you. You deserved her.
Yeah, she was prettier, but whatever. Get lost now.
I grabbed him by the collar and punched him hard. Just then the cops arrived at our door because I'd already called them and reported him for theft. He left shouting and screaming, and it was the best I'd felt in years. And then I left to see my mom. When I arrived at my old house, Mom was completely stunned to see me. Oh my God, Giselle, it's been so long. You're even more beautiful than I remember. And suddenly, I just burst into tears and ran to hug her tight. She asked me what was wrong, and I told her everything. I'm so sorry, Mom, for never realizing how Dad made you feel, for not listening to you about Sam. You warned me, but I grew up never trusting you to be happy for me. It's not really your fault, Giselle. All those years I was angry at your dad, and I took it out on you by never showing you affection. It's taken me years to get over my resentment and realize I should never have ruined my relationship with you over someone who never loved me at all. I'm here now, Mom. Do you think we can start over? I've been waiting to hear those words for so long, my darling. Story time about how I stole a famous celebrity's boyfriend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Growing up, I loved the fashion industry and loved clothes. I knew I wanted to make that my job in the future. And just to let you guys know, I'm not the prettiest girl. I'm not anything special in terms of looks, but I'm pretty funny and I have a really great personality. When I was 16, I moved to New York to become a fashion stylist, and I quickly started gaining traction. I became an intern at a really big fashion house, and this helped me a lot. As you can imagine, I started meeting a lot of celebrities and just really important people doing this. Although I never really got to style anybody, I was still in the room when they were there for fittings and different things. After a few years, I quit that internship and went into another company. This new company, I was getting paid more and I was just happier in general, and I was able to style a bunch of people on my own. I wasn't styling any celebrities or anything like that, but just basically people that worked in the industry and people that had different events to attend. But one day this celebrity comes in. And no, he's not an A-list or anything, but he's pretty famous. He came in with his girlfriend, who at the time was also famous. I basically had to style both of them for an event, and it was really fun. But here's the thing. Clearly, he thought I was really funny, and we were making jokes back and forth. The fitting took longer than usual because we had some pieces coming in, so we had to wait for them to come in for them to try it on. But she was clearly annoyed. Obviously, waiting around for clothes is not the most fun thing, but at the same time, we were giving them champagne, we ordered them amazing food, and she was literally getting her tushy kissed. I could tell that he was really embarrassed by her behavior. At one point, he even told her just to sit down and relax, which she did eventually. I left them alone for a few minutes before the clothes arrived. Once they arrived, I came in and I gave him the pieces. She literally ripped the dress out of my hand and went into the changing room. He looked at me and apologized and said, she's just in a bad mood today. And I said, I totally understand. This was my job, so I knew I couldn't react any other way, but I wanted to slap her across the face. While she was changing, he started making small talk with me. I made a few jokes and it actually made him laugh, which I was really surprised. And then he even complimented me about what I was wearing. I mean, I did look really good. When she came out of the dressing room, she started complaining right away about the fit. It didn't surprise me whatsoever, but at the same time, I just really couldn't believe how she was acting. Then I realized that she was probably jealous because he was talking to me. He was like going out of his way to talk to me. They finally left and he said bye. But 2 days later, he comes back by himself. He wanted me to style him for an event coming up that weekend. And that's when I realized I needed to take advantage of the situation. I had the feeling he liked me, but I wasn't going to come out and say it. So I turned up the charm 1000%. We talked for about 2 hours. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I stole a famous celebrity's boyfriend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So I knew I had to make my move now or it would be never. The fact that he came in 2 days later and by himself, that let me know that he liked me. Like I said in part 1, he was there for a few hours. We totally hit it off. We even talked about each other's families and what our favorite foods were. So that's when I asked him if he wanted to have a quick dinner. Trust me, I was so nervous to ask him, but I knew I had to do it. And he said yes. We finally got to the restaurant and sat all the way in the back. I kind of got the feeling that he didn't want anyone to see us, but it made sense. That's when I asked about his famous girlfriend. Then he quickly apologized for her behavior and told me that she's never really like that, and I told him that I'm used to being treated that way by celebrities. He said that I didn't deserve that kind of behavior from her. That's when I asked him if he was happy with her. I could tell the question caught him off guard because he didn't really know how to respond, and that's when he told me that he was happy with her, but he didn't know if the relationship would actually go anywhere. We proceeded to have a few drinks, and I could tell this was really loosening us up. Out of nowhere, I grabbed his hand and kind of massaged it, but he didn't pull it away. That just confirmed the fact that he liked me. Then he asked me for my phone number. We said goodnight and went our separate ways. But for the next week, he texted me every single day saying good morning. Of course, we would text pretty much all day long. I finally decided to tell him how I felt, which he obviously already knew, and he told me that he felt the same. Then he was the one that asked me out, and we actually went to the beach. We were at the beach for about 6 hours and we had such a great time. At the end of the beach day, I kissed him and asked him if he really wanted to be with his girlfriend. He stayed quiet and didn't answer, but the following day he messaged me and told me that he broke up with her. Here's the bad news. We only dated for 3 weeks. On the 3rd week, he actually broke up with me and told me he was dating someone else. I saw it coming. He's now dating another celebrity. The relationship isn't public yet, but I have a feeling they're gonna announce it soon. I keep texting him and asking him to take me back. I was actually falling in love with him. What should I do, you guys? Story time about how my half-sister tries to steal all of my boyfriends. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I'm currently 24 years old and I didn't meet my half-sister till about a year ago. She's 22, so she's 2 years younger than I am. My parents have a really complicated past. They divorced when I was really young and they pretty much never spoke after the divorce. What I didn't know back then was the reason why they got divorced until now. When I was 3 years old, my mom found out that my dad had a child with another woman. It was totally heartbreaking for my mom and I totally understand looking back. Fast forward 20 years later, my mom and my dad started speaking again. They kind of wanted just to get over all the past stuff and just be friends. I was really happy about this because I've always wanted this for my parents. Throughout the years, I kept a decent relationship with my dad, but we were never really close. So once my mom and my dad started making up, I started having more of a relationship with my dad too. And I also knew that I did have a half-sister somewhere in the world, so I was excited to meet her. We all decided to go have dinner, and that's when I met my half-sister. I assumed that her and I were just going to become really good friends because we were so close in age and we had the same dad. I mean, she's my half-sister. But I couldn't be more wrong. As soon as we met, she didn't even want to give me a hug. My mom was so upset by it that she even confronted her and asked her what her problem was. And in front of everyone at the dinner, she told my mom and I that she had no desire to get to know us and that she didn't even consider us family. My mom and I left the dinner and basically didn't speak to her for a long time. But of course, my dad, being my dad, forced her to call my mom and I to apologize. Of course, this was all super awkward. She apologized and we went about our lives. Right before Thanksgiving, I started dating someone new. He was really amazing. We got along super well and had tons of fun. My mom loved him. That year, we decided to join the two families and have one big Thanksgiving dinner. I knew my half-sister was going to be there, so I talked to my mom and told her to just have patience in case she said something to us. As soon as we show up to the house, my half-sister goes straight to my boyfriend and starts talking to him. At first, I didn't really get annoyed at all because I thought at least she was being nice. But boy, was I wrong. She spent the whole night talking trash about me to my boyfriend. My boyfriend kept looking over at me and making weird faces, so I went over there and asked him how they were. That's when my half-sister literally looks at me and just walks away. Then my boyfriend fills me in on everything that she said about me. She told him that I was dating 3 other guys behind his back. Thankfully, he didn't believe her, of course. But after this, she basically stalked him on Instagram and wouldn't leave him alone. She even got his phone number and started sending him messages. And the only reason I found out was because I saw a message come in through his phone. When I confronted my boyfriend about it, he told me that it was totally innocent and that I needed to get over it. And yes, my half-sister is very pretty. But I got really upset at my boyfriend and decided we needed to take a break. That's when she swooped in. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my half-sister tries to steal all of my boyfriends. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It said to me on Instagram. After she stalked my boyfriend and started sending him messages, told him we needed to take a break because I saw the messages on his phone. And he didn't tell me. Instead of confronting her, I decided to call my dad and tell him what she was doing. That's when my dad told me that he was sick of us being children and that we both needed to mature. I mean, I wasn't the one stalking her boyfriend. Since that failed, I went straight to my half-sister. I told her she needed to leave me alone and to never speak to me again. That's when she literally denied everything that she had been doing. She told me that my boyfriend was making all that stuff up and that she would never do that. Of course, I didn't believe her. After a few weeks, I call my ex and tell him that I'm ready to talk again. That's when he told me that he actually started dating my half-sister. I couldn't believe it. Once again, I called my dad and told him what she was doing, and when he asked her about it, she denied having ever done that. She even told my dad that she wasn't dating him. So at this point, it was her word against mine. I decided to just move on with my life and I started dating new people. Once again, I meet a really good guy. I told him I wanted to take things slow and he said he understood. We were out to dinner one night and I decided to tag him in one of my stories. A few days later, he asks me if I have a half-sister and I said yes. That's when he sent me a screenshot of a conversation he had with her. And again, she was telling him that I was dating a bunch of other guys. She even asked him if they could meet up for coffee. I told him to block her and completely ignore her. A few days after that, my ex, who left me for my half-sister, calls me up and tells me that she broke up with him. He told me that I was right about her, that she was toxic and totally demented. He then begged me to give him another chance. Once again, I go to my dad and I show him all the screenshots of her messaging my boyfriends. Finally, my dad believed me. My dad and I both confronted her and she denied everything once again. But then, the new guy that I'm seeing sent me another screenshot. She apparently messaged him from another number and asked him out again. I don't know what to do at this point. She keeps denying having done anything. In fact, I'm almost scared of her. What should I do?
Storytime, I had to go to jail because of my toxic ex-boyfriend. So a little background information. Him and I started dating right after high school. And this relationship was so fucking toxic. We would literally fight over the dumbest shit. So fast forward 4 years later, the one night he had his friends over and he wanted me to cook steak. I decided to cook chicken instead. And this is what triggered the entire fucking fight. He was saying things like, you never listen to what I say, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife type of shit. So he pretty much blew up and was like trying to kick me out of our house. He went to our master bedroom, started breaking all my shit, throwing it down the stairs, and his friends left me there with his crazy ass. So I tried to get him to stop, but he wouldn't, of course. So then he ended up calling his fucking sister, who is 10 years older than me, trying to get her to come to my house and kick my ass. I never really got in a fight like this, so I decided to call 911. She heard him in the background going crazy like for part 2. Part 2 of why I had to go to jail because of my toxic ex-boyfriend. So like I said, the dispatcher on the phone could hear him in the background going absolutely fucking psycho. So she told me to hide. I ran upstairs into the master bedroom and locked the door until they came. So they interviewed us separately, and he has the nerve to start fucking crying, saying that I was beating his ass, and he even fucking scratched himself. So even though I called 911, they said in a domestic dispute they had to take somebody to jail. And since he had visible marks on him, they took me to jail. So the police officer told me to take off all my clothes and to only wear one layer and to also take out my shoelaces before he brought me in. So they booked me in jail, put me in a freezing cold fucking cell with 25 other actual bad bitches for 7 hours. And this is the best part. My ex kept trying to call and get me out the whole time I was in there, saying that he lied and everything. They set a court date for me, but when I showed up, they literally just dropped all the charges. Now I just tell everybody that I've been to jail and I'm not scared to go back. Story time about my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend. So a little background information. So his ex-girlfriend's parents, they owned a security company, which sold cameras, alarms, and a few other things. So at the end of 2019, my boyfriend broke up with his ex-girlfriend. And by March of 2020, he started seeing me. And at first we were just keeping things on the down low. Anyways, so after maybe 3 weeks of seeing my boyfriend, his ex sent me an Instagram message calling me a slut. It's the obsession for me. Anyways, what's even weirder is that she knew everything about my boyfriend and I, even the sexual things. Anyways, like I said, I thought that was really weird, so everything that she had sent me, I sent straight to him. Because I thought, obviously, that he had still been talking to her and had told her everything about us. But instantly, he gave me his phone and said go through it, and he had her blocked on everything. So even though it was weird, we moved on from that situation. Well, fast forward another 2 weeks, and his ex calls him while I'm at his house. Like for part 2. Part 2 about my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend. So like I said, she had called him while I was over his house. And somehow she keeps figuring out things about our sex life and personal things that we had told each other. So my boyfriend and I got super suspicious, obviously. Then we started to think, and we noticed that everything that she was telling us were things that we had talked about in his bedroom. And things that we had done. So we ransacked his whole room looking for anything. And what do you know, I found a mini security camera and a microphone pointing out of his walk-in wardrobe directly towards the bed. He took it to the police and tracked it back to her. So it turns out she had used the hidden spare key, which his mom kept under the mat at the front door, which she had known about from when they dated. So she broke into his house, planted a security camera from her dad's business in his wardrobe. So we decided not to press charges because her parents and my boyfriend's parents were friends. So they just talked it out and decided to punish her in their own way. Story time about my psychotic best friend. So we're gonna call this girl Gia. So a little background information. This all happened whenever I was in 9th grade. I saw Gia sitting at this lunch table alone and I invited her to come sit with my friends and I. And after talking to her, I found out that she was a new student and she didn't have any friends. So her and I started hanging out and we became really close. Like she would come over my house 24/7. While my older sister was a grade above us and she would act really weird around her. And by weird, I mean like she would always make fun of me in front of my sister. And weirdly enough, try to cause problems between us. My sister didn't really like her. She thought that she was weird, but because she was my friend, she was being super nice to her. Well, like a month later, she started trying to become best friends with my sister. Like any conversation she would have, I would be like, oh, do you want to come over? She would be like, no, sorry, I'm hanging out with your sister today. And I would go home and I would be like, hey, are you hanging out with Gia today? And my sister would be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like for part 2. Part 2 about my psychotic best friend. So like I said, my sister was like, no, what are you talking about? So at this point, I'm thinking, oh, this girl's really weird. But it gets even worse. She comes over my house one day to hang out with me and goes in my sister's room the whole time. My sister dyed her hair black, so what does she do? She dyes her hair black too. The obsession was like really fucking weird. Anyway, so the one night that Gia's over, yes, I still had her over after this because I didn't think it was really weird at the time. My sister had her boyfriend over and they were in the living room watching a movie, and the whole time Gia is begging me to go in the living room and watch the movie with them. So I'm like, fine, whatever, we'll do that. We go into the living room, we all sit on the couch, and my couch is kind of small, so like we all had to squish. So she sits her ass right next to my sister's boyfriend. Well, my sister's boyfriend got up and started freaking the fuck out. Well, turns out that Gia was trying to touch him under the blanket. So I told her to leave. Next day, I got a whole paragraph of her saying that she just wanted to be like my sister because she never had an older sister.
Story time about how my asshole boyfriend criticizes everything I wear. Disclaimer's not my story time. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 6 months. We're both pretty young. I'm 19 and he's 22. I could say that he's just young and he doesn't know how to treat a woman yet, but he's pretty immature in everything else. Now, you might wonder why I'm with him. It's because I love him. I met him when I was 15 in high school, and I've been in love with him ever since. He always used to tell me that I was too young for him, but finally when I turned 18, he started paying attention to me. I begged him to go on a date with me, and he finally said yes. At first, everything was so amazing. He was fun, charismatic, and super affectionate. When he finally asked me to be his girlfriend, I was so happy. But then slowly, he started criticizing everything I wear. He doesn't like when I wear hoodies or sweaters, leggings or pants, skirts that are too short, skirts that are too loose, or crop tops. First, he would politely say things, but now he's just straight up mean about it. He told me when I'm around him, I can wear skimpy clothes, but when we go out, he wants me to wear stuff that's loose. So I literally changed everything I wore. I dressed only for him, and I started hating myself. Part 2 of how my boyfriend criticizes everything I wear. Disclaimers are not my story time, send me on Instagram. I completely changed the way I dressed just for him. He would always find something to criticize, even down to the jewelry or hair accessories or makeup that I wore. It got to the point where if I went shopping, I would send him pictures of the stuff that I wanted to buy for him to approve. Even my nails. Anytime I went to the nail salon, I would have to send him pictures of the nail polish or any designs I wanted to do. And don't think that he's paying for stuff. No, he's not. I finally opened up to my mom and told her everything. She told my dad, and they both got really upset. My dad even called my boyfriend and told him to come over. My parents told him to stop being so controlling, otherwise the relationship would be over. Of course, my boyfriend pretended to be on his best behavior, apologized, and said that he wouldn't do it anymore. But when we left my parents' house, he told me I was a snitch. Then he made me promise to never tell my parents anything about our relationship again. And I know I should just break up with him, but I do love him. I've been in love with him for years, and now that I'm with him, I don't want to lose him. But I know that I've put him up on a pedestal. It's been a few weeks since my parents intervened, but my boyfriend hasn't changed a thing. I decided to buy myself a designer purse that I've been wanting for years. As soon as he saw me with the purse, he said that my privilege was showing, and that I needed to go return it as soon as possible because it was embarrassing. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how my boyfriend criticizes everything I wear. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, send me on Instagram. After he told me to return the designer purse, I said no. He then explained to me why I should be embarrassed to wear it. He said people that buy designer stuff are only trying to flaunt their wealth, and that people who do that are just trying to cover up their shortcomings. So basically, I'm trying to hide the fact that I'm not good at other things, or that I don't have good qualities. I couldn't believe what he was saying to me. For the first time ever, I defended myself and I told him he needed to leave me alone. And no, I didn't return the purse, and I'm not trying to flaunt my wealth either. So here's what I did. I started returning all the clothes that I bought just to wear for him, and the ones he wants me to wear in front of other people. When he saw me again, he told me that I looked terrible. He said no one would take me seriously in my outfit with my designer purse. So I drove him back to his house because no, he doesn't have a car, and I've been ignoring his calls and messages for 4 days. My plan is to start treating him the way he treated me. I'm going to control and criticize everything he wears and see how he likes it. I think this is going to make things better. I don't want to break up with him because I do love him. What do you guys think?
I, 18, and my lifelong best friend, Emily, 18, shared a dorm at college. For backstory, I started having really bad panic attacks when I was 10 after my parents died. My brother Dylan, 32, took me to the psychiatrist, and I was diagnosed with GAD and put on Prozac. I've taken it ever since, and I have occasional panic attacks, but it's been a lifesaver. Emily has stood by me through all of it, but she never liked the medication. She was raised extremely Christian, as opposed to my agnostic upbringing, and thinks I just need to repent and ask for God's forgiveness. Now, I'm pretty good at just ignoring that, since I trust my therapist and doctor. However, since we've gone to college, she has been looking at me weird and making sign rocks every morning when I take my medication. She's asked me not to take it in front of her, and I try to do it when she's in the bathroom, but she insists that she can hear the pills rattling. It has caused tension, but I never thought that she would do what she did. Thursday afternoon, I was feeling restless and went into the city with my girlfriend Ava. Emily thinks that we're just friends. We've had a great time, but Emily kept texting and calling even though I insisted everything was okay. I'm usually okay with her being so overprotective because of an incident when I was 14, but I just wanted to be with Ava, so I told her I'd call her if anything happened and turn off my phone. A couple hours later, I got back to the dorm and Emily screamed at me for having my phone up and threatened to call my brother and sister-in-law. I apologized because I didn't want her to call and worry them. She accused me of not having morals anymore, and I just didn't say anything and went to bed. Friday morning, I was getting ready and found that all my clothes were missing. I asked her about it and she said, "You don't need drugs, you need to pray," and she said that she had flushed them. I lost my temper and told her that I need my medication to function properly, and she had no right to do that. I had to go all day without it, and it was a complete disaster. I had to step out of chemistry lab because I felt so bad. It was about time to replace the prescription anyway, so I did that, and I'm hiding it in my backpack. However, Emily is demanding an apology for how I yelled at her, and her boyfriend agrees with her completely. Ava, Dylan, sister-in-law, and other friends say that I'm completely right and should be angrier. We've been friends for so long, I feel like if I don't apologize, it'll all be over and the rest of the freshman year will be so awkward. I know she'll hold a grudge for a while. I shouldn't have shut off my phone, but she knew where I was. She has my Snap map location, and that I wasn't alone. I just want it all to blow over. Am I the asshole for yelling at my best friend when she threw away my anxiety medication? I, 28, and my husband, 29, have been married for 5 years. My husband was a nurse until he told me that he wanted to become a doctor. I was fully supportive, and he is now in his first year in medical school. I've been supporting the both of us as he can't work while in school, but recently found out our rent was being raised by $500 at the end of our contract in April. This was honestly the last straw as it pushed us past where we were financially comfortable, so I raised the idea of us buying a home. This had been in conversation for years, but my husband had always said that he could after he dropped his school debt from nursing, which was paid off early in 2020. I asked my mother, a real estate agent, who told me that with what we would be paying, it would be better for the money to go towards mortgage repayments and not rent. I brought all of this up to my husband, who shut it down almost immediately. He told me our agreement was submitted until he had paid off all of his debt. I told him that was for nursing and that he was in school for 6 years with his hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, and some doctors don't pay off the debt until 20 plus years. I told him I had been supportive of this career change and my financially supporting the household, but it was the best financial decision for both of us, but also relieved the financial burden for me. I brought up the savings we had for our deposit and how we could afford something small and modest within the budget, but he told me it was in our best interest to use that money to pay off his loans. I asked him if he realized the financial burden this would put on me, but he said it was temporary and eventually he'd make more than me, so we even, and I agreed to this. My mother called and asked if we were going to look into buying a house, but I told her that we weren't and we'd be looking for somewhere cheaper to rent instead. She insisted we at least consider it because it made the most financial sense and asked if it was because we didn't have the down deposit. I told her that we were probably going to use that to pay off my husband's debt and he didn't want any more debt until he was debt-free from his student loans. Days later, my mother and father came to lunch and told us that they had news. They offered to gift us the down deposit of a home. I was over the moon and shocked by the offer. Once they left, my husband exploded on me, claiming I emasculated him and made him look bad in front of my parents. I told him I never asked for this, but we should take it as it was a privilege most people don't get and it would relieve so much financial burden on me. He refused to talk to me or my parents until we apologized for shaming and emasculating him, but I refused to. I apologized but told him that I wouldn't make my parents as they'd done nothing wrong. Am I the asshole for emasculating my husband and refusing to make my parents apologize for it?
Am I the asshole for hiding the soda? I feel ridiculous for even posting this, but I need objective eyes on this. Background: 1 husband, 2 stepkids, 15 male, 17 male. Married 5 years. We keep separate financial accounts if that makes a difference, and we alternate who buys groceries week to week. Anyways, here's the deal. I don't drink coffee. I drink Mountain Dew or the occasional energy drink for my morning caffeine kick. My husband and the oldest stepson are both coffee drinkers. With increasing frequency, I'll go to grab a drink out of the fridge and all of the soda and energy drinks are gone. The kids have taken to coming home and grabbing 2 to 3 or more sodas, and before they left for their mom's house last week, the 15-year-old was actually packing a 6-pack into his backpack to go. The obvious solution, I thought, was to buy more soda. Yes, I know it's awful for the kids, but if their dad isn't stopping them from sucking down junk food, it's not my deal to intervene. Good point for you. Yes, you are correct. Nope, still gone to where I look for the fridge for one single much needed energy boost and nada. So I started asking my husband to pick up soda or a few energy drinks on his grocery shopping week to supplement. His response was that he's not wasting money on garbage like that and to complain about how expensive things like Mountain Dew are these days. Then tell your kids to stop drinking hers. Simple. Like, okay, you don't buy it, fine, don't buy it, but tell your kids not to take your wife's shit. Next tactic was to ask that if the kids drink the soda, that they please leave a few behind if it's obvious we're almost out, so I have at least 1 or 2 when I go to grab one. This is where things took a turn for the worse. My husband got irritated and said that I was policing the food and that no one who lives here should have to ask permission to eat or drink. Really, dude? You gonna pull that shit? Ugh. Fine. I figured if I wanted to have a Mountain Dew or energy drink for myself, I would just put a little mini fridge in my office and stash a few in there. I got a tiny fridge that holds a 6-pack and popped a few in there. I put the cases I buy in my office and put a week's worth in the main fridge at a time so they last until I shop again. Okay, so you're putting some, like 6 in your own little fridge and you're still putting a pack in the big fridge. Yesterday, the 15-year-old complained that there hadn't been Mountain Dew in the fridge for a few days, and my husband grumpily said, "Go get them from your stepmom's office. She's hiding food and snacks from you guys in there." What a piece of shit. At this point, I put my foot down and said I'm hanging on to some of the drinks that I like every week because otherwise I don't get any. And if everyone else drank what I put in the fridge for them before I shopped again and my husband didn't want to buy any himself, that's just too bad. My husband still refuses to buy the soda himself, but is convinced I'm being a complete and total jerk because I'm hiding what I purchase. Am I being completely oblivious to my own asshole behavior here, or is this as lopsided as I think it is? Nah, your husband's psycho. What the heck? He's not wasting money on garbage, but he's perfectly happy for you to spend your money and not even drink your own soda. So...
Am I the asshole for leaving the house when my sister-in-law said she was on her way to drop the kids off for me to watch? I have a younger brother who's married and has 2 preschool-age kids. He travels a lot for work and his wife is a stay-at-home mom. When my brother leaves the country, he'd tell his wife that if she needed anything, then she could give me a call. Then go on and on about how sister-in-law and the kids are my responsibility while he's gone. I never said I was okay with this since my sister-in-law and I aren't on the best of terms, but I try. Well, I got a call from his wife asking if I could watch the kids while she gets her hair done. I said no because I had to attend my girlfriend's art event. She said art isn't more important than your nephews and your brother's counting on you and said I could rely on you. I said no means no and hung up. Am I the asshole for leaving the house when my sister-in-law said she was on her way to drop the kids off for me to watch? Literally minutes later, I got a text from sister-in-law saying she was on her way to drop the kids off and I better not leave. I didn't reply, I just got dressed quick and got the F out of there before she came. My neighbor called saying that my sister-in-law was knocking on the door hysterically and checking my windows in an unusual way. I said to let her and she'll leave soon, and she clearly did after calling me nonstop. Hours later, my brother called me and was mad, saying what I did was childish and that I was a terrible uncle. I told him what happened, but he sided with his wife and called me unreliable, irresponsible, and a weasel. Now they're upset with me and my brother got back and refused to see me until I apologized, which was hurtful of him. Am I the asshole for tipping our waitress $20 despite her poor service because my date was playing a game with her tips? I met a guy on a dating app and we hit it off and arranged for our first date. Things were going well and we sat down and had started some small chat. Our waitress came over asking us what we wanted to order. I say what I want and gesture to him so he can order. He orders, then pulls what I think is about $15 on the table. He then says, "This is your tip. Every time you mess up, I take some away." The waitress looked nervous immediately, and I'm sitting there looking shocked but mostly embarrassed because I wasn't expecting it. She must have been new as well because she did spill some drinks on our table that night, gave us the wrong food, and overall seemed just lost. He took $13. Am I the asshole for tipping our waitress $20 despite her poor service because my date was playing a game with her tips? She must have been new as well because she did spill some drinks on the table that night, gave us the wrong food, and overall just seemed lost. He took away $13. I asked him why he thought doing tips this way was a good idea, and he said it was the best way to ensure good service. When I disagreed, he said we can't always be nice to these people and it's not a respectable job. I decided then that I wanted nothing to do with him and called the waitress over to get the bill. I slapped a 20 in her hand and got up to pay for my own meal. He demanded to know why I gave her the tip despite poor service, and I told him it's because he decided to treat her livelihood like it was a game.